King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Broadcasters Podcast. Here is the King of Podcasts.
We're going to come back to something we talked about 2 weeks ago because I think the rap battle that we've had that created a whole lot of tension, from Chris Brown and Quavo to Megan Thee Stallion and Nicki Minaj to most recently all the surrounding players in the Kendrick Lamar Drake rap battle. I think it's all kind of subsided now. And public opinion is basically saying Kendrick Lamar won. Of course, there are Drake fans that will say the opposite, but at the end of the day, the fans win. We got some good rap music out of it. It reawakened the masses of like these big legacy rap artists that have been around for over a decade to finally do something a little more important. Because let's be honest, Kendrick Lamar's last album, it didn't pan out that well. It didn't do a whole lot. Drake's last two albums have been kind of subpar as well. Let's be honest with that too. The better days of both of these rappers were behind them. I mean, they're still in their prime, if you would say, but like, I mean, you know what? It is kind of hard to go and keep up that kind of creativity, that kind of level of success, because, you know, the game is a young man's game anyway. And a lot of people got brought into this whole thing, but it's basically over. And it brought rap music back. The charts are going to reflect that very soon because the songs that all came out in the last 7 days or so are going to really bring everything to light. And of course, the virality of social media has been rampant ever since. So in this episode of the Broadcasters Podcast, we're going to reflect on this feud itself. And of all places that would give us a good starting off, to give us a full rampant of what this whole thing is, going back to the very beginning, Associated Press, believe it or not. So they put out a story about Drake and Kendrick Lamar, their feud. There have been several police actions that happened as a result, where a security guard was shot outside of Drake's mansion on Tuesday, and then another breach of security happening, I think, about a day ago. So this is, I'm not going to get to the level of Biggie and Tupac, I'm hoping we don't get to that route. We do not need to see actual physical violence here as a result. But obviously there is some hate here. And, you know, I think at the end of this, I think Drake's, you know, very much on the verge of getting canceled. There's a lot to be answered to about all this. And there has been a lot of evidence put out so far. So we got to wait and see what it's going to be all about. So Associated Press explains that over a decade ago, the pair collaborated on a few songs. Drake had his 2011 track Buried Alive Interlude, and Lamar had Drake on the 2012 release Poetic Justice, and on A$AP Rocky's Expletive Problems that same year. Fucking Problems. It didn't last very long. Then Lamar was featured on Big Sean's Control in 2013. He called out a slew of contemporary rappers, including Drake, J. Cole, Meek Mill, Pusha T, A$AP Rocky, Big K.R.I.T, Wale, Pusha T, and even Big Sean among them. Quote, I got love for you all, but I'm trying to murder you. Trying to make sure your core fans never heard of you. Right? Really put Kendrick Lamar, you know, at a level of, you know, of praise among fans, because, you know, again, any rapper that wants to go and say they're going to be the best in the game and really just don't mind taking shots at others, they did. So Drake responded to the Billboard cover story saying, quote, I know good and well that Kendrick's not murdering me at all on any platform. And then at the 2013 BET Hip Hop Awards, Lamar took another jab at Drake. So these two have had animosity for a long time. They had launched disses at each other with less frequency. Drake had other beefs with other performers like Meek Mill in 2015, most infamously Pusha T in 2018. And Pusha T pushed out the song The Story of Added On, revealing Drake is a father. And of course, we now know that's to be true. In October 2023, J. Cole reignited the beef because he appeared on First Person Shooter with Drake. He rapped, quote, love when they argue the hardest MC. Is it K.R.I.T? Is it Aubrey or me? And that's referencing Lamar and Drake's birth name, Aubrey Graham. Quote, we the big three like we started a league, but right now I feel like Muhammad Ali. End quote. So in the last recent weeks, and as I said, we talked 2 weeks here on the Broadcasters Podcast about the rap battle 2024. It essentially started, yes, it started here, but the real kind of dissing right off the bat came from the women, with Megan Thee Stallion and Nicki Minaj putting out diss tracks on each other. And it looks like Megan Thee Stallion, for many people, saying that she won that side. So March 22nd is when it all starts. Like That, which becomes the number one song on the Billboard Hot 100. It's off of Metro Boomin's album. And Lamar raps on here, the big three, it's just Big Me. And then, referencing Drake's 23-3 album, For All the Dogs, he compares himself to Prince and Drake to Michael Jackson. Prince outlived Michael Jack. And J. Cole soon released a response called Cinnamon Drill. He apologizes for it on stage at the Dreamville Festival in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I believe they took the song down, right? April 13th, Drake's Push-Ups. And by the way, a lot of podcasters got to be a part of all this. So these streamers. Notably DJ Academics, who was the first one to go ahead and put the song out. Quote, "You ain't no big three. SZA got you wiped down. Travis got you wiped down. Sevens got you wiped down." He raps about Lamar. And assumes, there's an assumption that Drake also took aim at future Metro Boomin, Rick Ross at a weekend. And then Rick Ross would put out a release track shortly afterward. Then we get April 24th and an AI-assisted diss track, tailor-made freestyle. He used artificial intelligence to include verses from Tupac and Snoop Dogg, two of Lamar's influences, and Drake accuses Lamar of delaying his response track because of his imminent release of Taylor Swift's The Tortured Poets Department, because Lamar was on Taylor Swift's Bad Blood single, right? Tupac's estate sues Drake. Snoop Dogg responded as well. Quote, "They did what? When? How? Are you sure? I'm going back to bed. Good night." That's all he said on that in the video. April 30th, we get Euphoria, which I think by far is the best single we got of all these diss tracks. Personally, it is probably my favorite, along with Not Just Us. But Euphoria, I'm not a big lyrics person, but the lyrics on that were very solid. Like I really did like the way they put that all out there. It was really, really good. It was something, I mean, you know, with Kendrick Lamar, I haven't been like the biggest fan of the world, but I have like a handful of his songs in my playlists that are really good. So I think go back, Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe is the first song I really think about. I think of Humble. You know, I mean, yeah, there's quite a few songs I could think of that, I like, that off the top of my head, I'm not like, you know, over the top about it, but like he's good. Don't get me wrong. He's very good. But I don't know. With the newer rappers, I think, you know, I kind of follow along, but I'm more just an enthusiast, I guess, more recreationally listening to it instead of really paying attention, because I was much more into it, say, in the early 90s, into the mid 90s, when I was doing, you know, college radio, and I was also on underground radio. And I stayed on that really much till about 2000, and then I kind of just stopped. I mean, I still listen to it. And when Spotify came around for me, that's when I really got back into it. Say 2016? And, you know, by then, rap had already kind of we already had obviously a lot of changes in the styles and all. And, I don't know, it was just a time where I just felt like I liked regional rap. I love what we had when we had different areas and neighborhoods and communities that represented themselves. I used to love that. And seeing factions work together, and like the last one that was really like that to me was Young Money, right? Then Kendrick Lamar comes back out with another song on May 3rd with 616 in LA. And then after that, like again, in the last like 12, 15 days has been crazy. Then Drake comes back with Family Matters. And then Lamar comes back with Meet the Grams, also pretty strong as well, but like, oh my goodness, like so much in here. We're not even talking about Metro Boomin and BBL Drizzy, which is now not only been, you know, brought down with verses in various languages. Now we have a merengue version of BBL Drizzy. Like, yeah, enough. If Dominicans are going to go and make a merengue version, let's do a dembo version, okay, folks? Where is the dembo version? That's what I want. Not Like Us. I'll tell you this. It is produced by DJ Mustard. That's a beat. I already see that people are playing it out there. I think I saw it at Dodger Stadium being played. I've seen it at clubs. Yeah. That's a banger. That's a dance banger right there. Which, how many rap songs do you hear that are like kind of like have a bounce to it? It's like a bounce record. So now Kendrick Lamar gets this out here. Good. I like it. Again, good stuff. Then Drake softens his blows on the Heart Part 6. And Drake doing this here, interesting. Gets hard into the rapping and then just goes into a monologue after that. But, to him, I feel like he felt like he was really confident on how he did. He felt like he performed really well. It samples Aretha Franklin's Prove It. And then Drake challenges Lamar's allegations, doubles down on his own against him, says he doesn't have a secret daughter, and sounds notably lethargic on the song, taking a final bow with verses like, at least your fans are getting some raps out of you. I'm happy I can motivate you. And that's exactly where we are now today. So that was May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. It's been quiet ever since. And it needs to be, because I think to go and saturate right now after having so many diss songs like that, it's a bit much. I mean, think about it. Like, we had almost 10 songs, 10 diss tracks here overall. That's not counting Metro Boomin. That's not counting Chris Brown and Quavo. That's not counting Rick Ross, right? And that's not counting who else decided to go and get onto this. That decided to get on the BBL Drizzy trend, which is still going on right now. But I've never seen anything like that in my life. I never thought I would see the day. But social media, man, it's amazing. That's when social media has a shine. When you see all this virality going on and it's just coming at you, I mean, it's in the real time, it's just coming at you like freight trains, like bullet trains. They're just boom, boom, boom. I mean, it was hard to keep up. Overall, what does it do for the rap game, for rap music in general? Because the first thing that happens now is that it's not going to go away. We know that the Billboard Hot 100 is going to have a say in this, because these tracks have been streaming now for a while, and obviously the Billboard Hot 100 does not really track the records until the following week. So now we're going to get to the May 18th Billboard Hot 100 chart coming up next week. And at this point, we see what's going to happen. Billboard talks about this. So they mentioned them now. We had to wait for some of these songs also to get on streaming, because some of them just came in through SoundCloud or some other places on YouTube. Like, for me to go and get some of these songs found, I had to wait first, because I would have waited to get them on Spotify, but they were not released right away there. We had to get them on YouTube or SoundCloud or some other place, but it wasn't right away. And some other people had to go and repost it for us to go and catch it. I mean, it was just a point that even Billboard had to tell you how to listen to each of the tracks, because you had to go and find a way to go and listen to them. The good news is, you can download the songs. I could put them on Spotify playlist as local files, and that's how I got to listen to them on playlist, and I got to listen to them a lot. I found my way to listen to them, and I could, enjoy what I did enjoy of the music. So Billboard tracks about how they could factor into the Hot 100 next week. So the ones that have already charted now are Like That, 7-Minute Drill, Push-Ups, and Euphoria. Now, the Hot 100 is a compilation of streaming, radio airplay, and sales data for its calculations. Let's just make this clear. Radio will not be much of a factor in all this. So it's going to be mostly streaming here for this. So as we said, J. Cole, 7-Minute Drill got to number 7 on April 20th. Like That was number 1 for 3 weeks on the chart beginning on April 6th. Drake's Push-Ups got up to number 17 as of May 11th. And Lamar's Euphoria is currently number 11 on the chart as of May 11th. So 7-Minute Drill was pulled from streaming services and digital retailers 1 week after the release. So that's out. Will not come back. Like That, Push-Ups, and Euphoria all sport an active radio presence. Oh, so those songs are getting played on radio. Urban radio gets different rules. They're not what pop radio is. Most of these urban stations, like the iHeart radios that will own these stations, probably are not going to go ahead and really get involved in that. They're just going to just let it go. Like, even for the iHeart Radio Music Festival, they really don't even delve much into rap. They just kind of they keep out of it. Probably smart about that. So now, what they say here is that Euphoria right now ranks at number 4 on the latest R&B hip-hop airplay chart. And Push Ups by Drake is right now in the top 30 and does not appear on the chart on the Billboard Hot 100 yet. But 3 days out of a 7-day Friday to Thursday tracking week due to its Tuesday drop date, it just got outside of the top 50 for the Billboard R&B hip-hop chart. Now, if we're going to see the impact of these songs, it's going to be in the May 18th Billboard Hot 100 chart. 5 songs released between Drake and Lamar since May 2nd, and that was the start of the current Hot 100 tracking week. Of the 5, 3 of these songs are Drake's Family Matters, Lamar's Beat the Grams, and Not Like Us, that are on streaming and digital retailers. So they're in place to be charted, and they will chart. But they'll have shortened periods in the window that they were released in the middle of the week. But they can still chart anyway. We already know that can happen. What's going to be interesting for me is to see what the official chart says, because the official chart will come out tomorrow as I listen to the BBC Radio 1's official chart top 40. I'll get to hear that tomorrow. And I have no doubt that after the Taylor Swift album bomb, that Kendrick Lamar or Drake, Drake usually will chart on the official chart in the UK. It's a pretty good parameter because they always are more real time than Billboard, because Billboard takes an extra week to get to their spot. Now on Spotify, Lamar's Not Like Us was number 1 stream song on Spotify as of Monday, May 6th. May 7th as well on Tuesday with over 6 million streams. And then Euphoria on Monday, and then what was it? Tommy Richmond's $1 Million Baby streamed 8 million plays. By the way, I love that song. It's been a repeat along with everything else that's been going on. Quite an interesting and exciting time for new music right now. There's a lot going on, but obviously that's what goes on in the summer. That's what they plan on, right? So we don't know if 616 LA, Taylor Made Freestyle, or Buried Alive Interlude Part 2 will resurface. Because we don't know what's going to happen after that. Well, Buried Alive Interlude Part 2 is another one that's come out. I haven't heard that yet, but we'll figure it out soon. So the charts are going to reflect what this feud represents. And actually, that is one of the best determining factors as to who really won the feud. We're going to wait for that as well. And I'll tell you, the media has had a firestorm of reading all about this and writing about it. They all couldn't help. And there have been some stories that they talked about, well, where do we go from here? GQ talks about it. So here's what GQ says. Truth be told, the apparent end of the beef feels like the closing of a chapter in hip-hop's story, where the teachings of the old guard met the interconnectedness of the new age. When's the last time rappers born in the 80s commanded this much of our attention? Save for Drake, none of the people who came in during the blog era's latter years will still mean something to my generation, to any other generation other than their own. Drake and Kendrick's places within the genre's pantheon of legends are pretty much established already. Anything we get with them now is ornamental, which is why the sheer effort they both put over in the last few weeks has been something to marvel at, because they really upped their game. Both of them. Look, Family Matters and Push-Ups, pretty solid. I don't know, we really don't know the whole story about what is the real meat of what's behind the lyrics on both of those and what's really true. But like I said, Push-Ups and Family Matters, definitely can listen to it. The Hard Part 6, I definitely listen to it quite a bit. For Kendrick, Euphoria, Not Like Us, Meet the Grams, in that order is what I've been listening to. And those are the 3 that really stood out to me. And like I said, the other song that really got to me was Weakest Link by Chris Brown on Quavo. That's also a very good one. And a surprising track from Chris Brown. Let's just say it like that too. There's little material return for Gen Z's biggest rappers to go toe-to-toe with one another outside of trading insults on live streams and interviews, and this will likely not happen again. Not like this. This is for people who spent their childhoods watching rap superstars freestyle at radio stations and BET's after-school TV lineup, 106 in Park and things like that. People remember a time, even if it was their early childhood, when an MC was only as good as their staunchest competition, and calling yourself a rapper meant being ready to prove your superiority at any second. Yeah. And that's a shame, by the way. Urban radio never got a chance to even be a part of this. Because think about it. For Kendrick Lamar, man, if he were able to get himself over at Power 106 or, and like talk to Big Boy's Neighborhood and all this kind of stuff, or even for Drake to go over to Toronto or go to, Hot 97 in New York or whatever, or the Breakfast Club, we never got anything about this. Radio completely missed it. They might have caught on the records, but that's about it. They didn't even get involved. It's the streamers that got involved in all this. That's sad. That's depressing to me, because back in the day, it would have been a different story. We know radio would have been completely involved in this, but they're not. No Sirius satellite radio, no nothing. And obviously, we get the full brunt of it because the language and all gets put out there in the ether, because radio didn't be a part of it, because it would have had to cut the language. So we didn't get any of that. Now, GQ makes a good point here, and this is what I will agree with him on this, is that the feud has been a joy to witness. It's also been a reminder that at its worst, hip-hop incentivizes the infantilization of grown men who need to be able to hold the attention of people in their teens and early 20s to remain powerful. In their late 30s, these brothers should be receptive and responsible enough to refrain from dangling abuse of women and children as a means to demonstrate dominance. That kind of decency is apparently too much to ask of men fighting desperately for a generational crown, and the consequences of those failures are already revealing themselves. Now, I only agreed with the feud was a joy to witness. Everything else they said, determining to your own opinion. You're entitled to your opinion. Before Drake's Family Matters, he and Kendrick's insults for one another drew on career and character deficiencies. But unlike that, K.R.I.T shot down the notion of him being a three-man generational upper crust that also included J. Cole and Drake. Drake comes back with push-outs. He suggests Kendrick's been getting screwed over by his former label boss, Anthony Top Dog Tiffith, and actually doesn't even measure up to the likes of Travis Scott, SZA, or 21 Savage. And on Euphoria, Kendrick centers Drake's obsession with fame and questions his commitment as a father, somewhat of a low blow, yet within still bounds of not mentioning anyone who was in the feud. Then Family Matters took a turn for the worse when Drake, in an attempt to quell attacks on his cultural and fatherly credibility, shifted the focus on the K.Dot's partner, Whitney Alford, suggesting she suffered physical abuse at the Compton rapper's hands, and suggesting that one of her children with Kendrick is actually the child of his business partner, Dave Free. Oh boy. Yeah, some low blows taken here. No doubt about it. For one, they go on to say, it says that Kendrick and Drake are each in their own way determined, if not desperate, to fortify their respective legacies before it's too late. In the next few years, they'll be both 40. Their 10 years pop culture priorities behind them. You get the sense that the refusal to lose is tied to a midlife crisis-informed, legacy-driven paranoia. Kendrick just seemed more willing to go the extra mile to secure a victory, regardless of how damaging it could be. Perhaps Drake didn't anticipate him to taking the feud so seriously. He couldn't have, or he would have been prepared to throw more than "I'm richer and more relevant than you" bars K.Dot's way when the beef first started. And Kendrick's apparent IRL disdain for Drake seemed to drive him throughout the whole ordeal, accounted to everything the Toronto rapper threw at him, including what appeared to be ready-made disses with questionable assertions, just in case things escalated to a personal level, as they eventually did. And fortunately for both parties, even though the Heart Part 6 feels like the waving a white flag, the current social media landscape doesn't allow for clear-cut winners in these kind of ordeals. Drake might lose some credibility in the eyes of hip-hop purists or people that were never comfortable with his dominance in the space, but even days after the showdown, there's a sizable audience of folks defending him and trying to piece together evidence that will tip the scales back in his favor. In a worst-case scenario, he'll take his lumps, go away for a while to regroup, and return with low-stakes, danceable anthems. In the best case, he'll come back angrier and with an even huger chip on his shoulder to guide him until his time runs out. But one thing he did succeed in doing was debunking Kendrick's claim to the moral high ground as an artist. If anything, they say, Kendrick's willingness to engage in real mudslinging to come out as a victor confirms the accusations that maybe that's what Kenny has been trying to tell us this whole time, that he'll blow all this shit up before he'll let a privileged Canadian ride off into the sunset unscathed. Every move Kendrick made was designed to strip Drake down to an insincere, insecure dweeb with no real foundation to stand on outside of an outsized ego, which is why Not Like Us is so potent. Not only does it mock his opponent's fans for only seeing the value in club-ready disses, the signature West Coast production doubles down, and Kendrick, having a homegrown culture to lean on, says something doesn't. Drake does it, excuse me. He's throwing a celebration for the Toronto natives' demise, and everyone's dancing along to it. And they make a point right here in this GQ article. Yeah. They're on the other side of the peak of their careers, Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Closer to 40, look, we see what happened to Eminem. We see what happened to others. It's a young man's sport. A young man's business to be in music. And now you just become a legacy artist. And people will at least, well, you got a great catalog of music to go to. We can always fall back on. Well, that's great. But you're not going to be the new group out there. But for those record labels out there, the music industry that has relished on rap artists that they come in here, but they always like to have these certain artists that come in. They either crash and burn on themselves, they go to prison for something that they did because the fame gets to their head. Or we get artists that come in here, they're corporate plants, they come in here, we get one album from them, and again, they'll just fall apart and go. We don't have a lot of artists in rap that have staying power, that are able to stick around and give us consistent good content all the time. We do get a couple. Young boy never broke again. I can't believe that guy is still, like, he can still put out music and still be out there. And for me, I just look at the fact that rap music still has a place. It can still have a place. But now we have this Kendrick Lamar Drake thing behind us. The new crop of artists, the new generation has to start getting up there now. Because it's proven that rap music can still sell, can still break in the ether and go viral. It's still relevant. A lot of young fans are listening to it. A lot of fans of different generations are listening to it and following along. The urban culture relishes on it. But what do you do now? Somehow this has to keep up. And it's not like we have a lot of rap artists right now that are getting albums out there ready to go. But one of the things I will say is that, look, even before this, Travis Scott, he didn't do that good. Like, his album came out, and I'm like, it didn't hit as hard as it could. Metro Boomin, yeah, it didn't do bad. Obviously, the diss tracks helped to amplify it. And of course, we can talk about the artists out there, the MCs that are still out there. But regardless of the MCs, we still got some good producers out there that are ready to go and come on there. You know, I mean, Mustard, DJ Mustard, and Metro Boomin, and who knows who else is still out there that can come bring on board. Mike Well made it, right? And, you know, let's get them back up. Let's get them working with some new artists. Let's get something here. Because rap music can get a revival right now. This is their chance to hit while the iron's hot. So there's new songs coming out. There's new things. That fire, that vitriol, spew that hatred out like that, the hard rapping like that. Let's get back to that. Because what we've been getting is a lot of flexing, a lot of brand porn, and really not much else. And yes, I take those phrases from Mark from Billboard Breakdown because I watch this show all the time on YouTube. So look for him on Spectrum Pulse. It is good. I don't agree with him on everything because he's a pretty tough critic anyway on some of what he likes, which is not my taste sometimes. So that's okay. We can all have that. But it's just that I would like rap music to be part of this because one of the things I do remember is that I listened to quite a bit of rap music even after. But as long as it was good, as long as this has been very good. Like, we've gotten hard bars. We got some good bouncing beats. We got some good, good samples in here, all of it. And done so quickly, by the way. I don't want to go ahead and put the conspiracy theory thing that this was all planned and set up. I don't want to say that, but to get these two artists right there back into the studio and get them working and just, put out diss track after diss track after diss track, like just that right there. Yeah, we're not going to see that again. We're not going because we won't have anybody right now at that level. But you kind of think like Kendrick Lamar and Drake, like the level and the size that they are, the magnitude, the impact that they already have in the rap culture. I mean, who else can be at that level, Because that's hard. And dare I say, like, we've had some good ones out there. I don't know, but this really did make something big. But we need to see something more now from the other artists out there, or some artists that wanted to get themselves back in the rap and see if we can get something here. Let's see what happens. But now some of the people that are out here that want to follow rap, they're also wanting to say, oh, this is all very much, psychological warfare. Of course, talking about this is the seedy underbelly of rap music. Well, that's what it is. Listen, would it be nice to go back to like the KRS Ones and the Public Enemies and the, gurus of Gangstar? Yeah, I'd love that. The Big Daddy Kanes, right? Give me that stuff. The Heavy D stuff. Yeah, give me that. But we're not going by that message music like we had before. The flexing, the one-upmanship, the sex talk, the brand porn. That's what we're going to get because that's what it's become. It's just materialistic. And this right here was, again, as some people said, two rich people fighting over each other. Yeah, that's all it was. And everybody talked about it. Even NPR went on and talked about this and went through everything that goes on here. So everybody went ahead, and the one thing that all these media outlets did is they took the time to go ahead and really take the storyline and just timeline this all down. So into the psychological warfare that NPR decides to talk about here with the Kendrick Lamar Drake beef fallout. Quote, by the rapid volley that defined this beef over the weekend, nothing was too illicit for mudslinging. It didn't really matter what was true, only what could draw the biggest reaction. That's always been the nature of beef, but the sadism is now amplified by our endless gaggle of live-streaming armchair clout stalkers and bloodthirsty digital storm chasers. Now here's the part too, for some of us older folks, right? A little more seasoned into this, if you would have given this in the 90s or early 2000s, you wouldn't get this kind of sanctimonious kind of drivel right now where it's like, oh, how dare you be like this? And how, it's that part. It's like comedians that used to be really blue and they can get away with it because, it was equal opportunity offenders. 20 years ago, no one would really have really taken this down. You would still have those naysayers like, oh, how dare you? How sexist? How misogynistic? Blah, blah, blah. Right. But this kind of singing right here is very TMZ, salacious, tabloidistic. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff I used to watch on TV and stuff. I relish on this stuff. This kind of stuff right here, yeah, relish it a lot. Even 10 years ago, it was like that. There were many moments where real-time discourse seemed to be shaping the beef. Academics debuting the CDQ version of push-ups when it leaked, and commentators like DJ Vlad seemed to be hovering around the periphery. The pageant is much more consequential than the rapping now. Eventually, one-upmanship was predominantly theatrical, and sadly, the women on both sides, Whitney Alford, Sandra Graham, Rihanna, Millie Bobby Brown, all the other unnamed others treated as asides, became collateral damage and a dirt-digging operation with no purpose beyond keeping score. Whether or not lines were crossed, the slander isn't really about accountability at all. It is merely about the attention grabbed by greater and greater provocation. Even if everything they said was true, neither man would see the other held responsible for his actions, as evidenced by the ways they dealt with abusers they already know. Yeah, listen, they're big name stars. You think they don't have any kind of dirt in their closets? Of course they do. You think they're really pillars of society? They're rap artists. What do you expect? If there is any fact that has been truly revealed by all this, is that Drake fatigue is real and palpable, not just among rappers but listeners as well, and most don't care what the repercussions of seeing him fall are. When Kendrick rapped that he represented what the culture was feeling on Euphoria, the response seemed to bear out in earnest. I'll make a case for Family Matters as the best song of this to come out of this whole thing, with a strong argument being for Not Like Us, but Drake is operating from a disadvantage, and his problems are twofold. He is the more known commodity for glaring flaws that have been talking points on the record for years, and many are simply ready to see him lose no matter what he does. When you get somebody on top like that, yeah, you're waiting for him to fall. He was already kind of fading anyway. He was fading a bit for a while. For all the dogs, Certified Lover Boy, and I forget the other one he put out there. Yeah, they didn't hit. They didn't hit that well. They kind of missed. He had a couple of songs that might have heard out there, but really, I'm not necessarily going to those albums. They're not views. We're not going back to it. Not necessarily. With this beef more or less settled for the audience, it does seem like the appropriate time to reevaluate the general rules of engagement. I, for one, do not want the form to devolve into a game of feed dumping, rewarding whoever can turn around songs the quickest or best harness the power of an algorithmic skew towards the sensational. The public decides who wins these, and if the public is scrolling, we're doomed. I like to see less fact-finding, and let's do away with the AI stunts. All right. But if you can forget about the ramification for a second, it's hard not to walk away from the experience somewhat invigorated simply because it feels like we've already introduced some suspense back into the rap race. Yeah. Clashes of this magnitude are rare. What began as histrionics became something more. For a time it felt even revelatory, and now perhaps hip-hop can experience entropy again. No matter what else is true or untrue, the circumstances set in motion were real. How else do we get Kendrick to take a break from invocation, just to get busy? How else do we get a long overdue Drake humbling? Only the spectacle of a spat this suggestive and high profile could so dramatically spin the spate of affairs, for better or worse, and perhaps some rules must be broken, some chaos instigated, to avoid the game feeling rigged forever. All I know is that right now, if Drake kind of faded away, he's already left a legacy. We already know that. He'll still be a part of, paparazzi, and he'll still be part of, celebrity fare because of who he is. But, it doesn't really matter what he puts out now. Again, he's been out in front of us, 13 years? It's okay. He can kind of step away too. And Kendrick Lamar, for his credit, he can still be out there. I mean, both of them can just go out and keep doing concept albums for all we care. Like, they don't have to go and do anything that has to be mainstream accepted. They can do whatever they want now. They can go the route of like Nas or something like that, and just do something a little more different and whatever. Like, you don't have to go and play for the big audience anymore. You can just play for your fans, and they'll buy whatever they want, whatever you make for them. It doesn't really matter anymore. The commentary on this has been very widespread and interesting. I'll give it all that. The streaming data. Variety actually put a report out from their Variety Intelligence platform about the streaming, how that it's peak rap beef. Really 2024 this year for music, I really felt it was country that was brought to the mainstream once again. When you think about it, and it kind of pseudo country, let's be honest. Yeah, Beyonce's Cowboy Recorder. Yeah, there's country nuances to it, but really it's not, you can hear the songs. Listen to this, okay? So when I was heading up to Tampa and back, same day, which is 7 hours plus, on the road, my brother, he's driving me and my father. We're going to go to my niece's graduation. And my brother listens to Sirius XM and most exclusively listens to the Highway channel on Sirius. So, new country, basically. It's fine. Listen, I got no problem with it. It got a little tiring after a couple of hours, but it's okay. And listen to the whole playlist over there and hearing the repetition. Not that much Beyonce on there. A little bit. Heard a lot of Dasha and Austin, right? That's good. Shabuzi's bar song, that's now on there, but that's like very mainstream. And then you have other artists that have come into the space where, Noah Kahan is like considered to be in that route too. I don't necessarily believe that, but that's okay. He's folk music. He's not country. But the British fans, they don't know any better. They're not really sure. But they call Noah Kahan a country artist. No, he's not. Not necessarily. So Variety gets the points about what happened here with the streaming and what came of that. So the streaming data for the officially released songs, according to Luminate, which is part of the stats that really determine to the Billboard Hot 100 streaming stats, like that, shot up to upward of 60 million streams in its first week, while responding with J. Cole's 7-Minute Drill was performing well before he apologized and removed the track. Push-Ups by Drake immediately matched the numbers of Like That with his first week. In his first week. So Drake had a small dip, perhaps as drawing criticism and a cease and desist for the AI recreation of Tupac Shakur on his follow-up disc to Lamar's tailor-made freestyle, but his numbers still tower above at 80 million monthly listeners. But even as many spectators have declared Lamar the winner for his scorching Drake takedown of Euphoria, it's unlikely Drake fans will turn back on him en masse. Despite for the apparent lack of meaningful stakes, this beef might still be do or die for these artists' fans. Like wrestling, rap beefs create dramatic narratives that are emotional enough to feel real, and might even feel that way for the artists. For one, Lamar's hatred for Drake sounds fairly genuine on Euphoria. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's true. If there are any winners of the beef, it's Future and Metro Boomin, who had identical jumps to Lamar's due to Like That being the song that really ignited the beef. They've been able to have a generous streaming boost and publicity for the new collaborative album that We Don't Trust You, all while staying out of the battle. Good for them. But yeah, rap is winning right now because streaming is really going on to that. Very strong to that too. Now, the other thing that was being asked about from Billboard is that, can there be any lawsuits? Can any consequences for this? That was the other part they asked about was, can each sue each other for defamation over ugly diss track accusations? So they try to put that out there. I don't really care about that. And then the other question that Billboard asked was, can a record label ask a radio not to play a song? So radio hasn't really caught on to it much yet, except for a couple of songs. But, it's the idea that, could something happen where a station could ask for a song to not be played? And legal experts studying broadcast rights in the music business, they don't think so. Charles Nastelin, a D.C. attorney working for Holland & Knight, who specializes in telecommunications law, says, quote, a station is virtually free to pick and choose what it wants. Lamar's new song, Euphoria, or the song actually, when he released it on April 30th, alleges that Drake and Republicans attempted to try and cease and desist on the Like That record. A reference to the song with Future Metro Boomin. And if Lamar's lyrical allegations were true, the Republican executive's email were legitimate, how could a label like even one that has Taylor Swift, Morgan Wallen, and The Weeknd, Post Malone on their roster, and as the industry's largest market share, pull off such a move? One explanation they say was the fact that Like That is an unusual business collaboration. A joint release from competing major labels, Universal-owned Republic and Sony-owned Epic. The former is Metro Boomin's label, the latter is Future's label. Because Republic had a hand in releasing Like That, it is conceivable, though extremely unlikely, that the company could demand that radio stations stop playing its own song. So yeah, none of that's going on either. And it doesn't even matter about this part. Like, people can go ahead and, reflect back to this and see what goes on, but sure, that's okay. Let's just see if there's something more about it. And everybody took a spin on this story. Everybody took a spin on it. The Atlantic took one. It's not a rap beef, it's a cultural reckoning, from Spencer Kornhaber. So now the Atlantic wants to go and talk about Drake and the deserved cancellation of him. Basically, what they're saying here is. So Drake's defeat is really what's significant. We're witnessing the modern implementation of an ancient right, the desecration of an individual for the moral cleansing of the masses. The conflict was sparked by what now seems like a quaint dispute. And Lamar replied with a correction, and Like That, he rapped in a tone of seething hostility. But Drake took Lamar's bait, and the men started volleying diss tracks. The global audience has been primed for the showdown. Drake and Lamar have reigned as the yin and yang of popular rap, the entertainer and the artist, the hedonist and the monk. Drake has flooded the marketplace with hits, collaborations, and tie-in products. His sound is chameleonic, borrowing unapologetically from far-flung subgenres and scenes. His lyrical outlook is pettily, proudly self-interested. Lamar, by contrast, expresses himself in carefully honed albums exploring how to live ethically in a fallen world. The Compton native's music, for all its experimental edge, roots itself in the bounce and attitude of West Coast hip-hop. Now, others can debate that Lamar's racial claims, but on some level, the attack represents a desperate wish for Drake, along with all he represents, to be cleanly excised from modern hip-hop culture. The maddening truth for Drake's critics is that he, in a fundamental way, is modern hip-hop culture. The genre's sound and social cachet over the past 15 years are inextricable from his success. And then, a more explosive issue, they say here in the Atlantic article that came to the forefront, which of these men is worse to women and children? Lamar's attacks were blunt, labeling Drake a deadbeat father and a predator. He addressed pitying verses to Drake's young son and to an 11-year-old daughter whom Drake allegedly had been keeping secret. He also said that Drake leads a crew of certified pedophiles, excuse me. Oh, I don't want to say that word. That is systematically luring victims of all inside their home. Drake, meanwhile, has called attention to rumors that Lamar beat the mother of his child. They're just not good people here. So don't become these rappers. You know, you can appreciate the music, but you don't want to be, they're not role models. They're not to be followed. They're just not. Drake's shunning has been a group activity. The feud really kicked off in March when Drake's frequent collaborators, Future Metro Boomin, released 2 albums full of Drake disses. All right. Moving along. The most likely legacy of the battle will be accelerating the record industry's strategic use of gossip and meta-narrative. Music was such a social local art form that fostered cultural cohesion. Now it's an on-demand utility that insulates people in their headphones. Commanding mass attention in this era is a difficult task, but the artists who are able to do so, Drake and Lamar, are, as well as storytellers like Taylor Swift and Olivia Rodrigo, make the internet feel like a village from our distant past. We can send strangers into the desert and feel some absolution, whether we've earned it or not. So the idea is we need new artists, or we need some of these other artists that are out there to come in with the same fire. Because that fire right there is what really people wanted. I don't know if we really care about, like, you know, around them and like some of the stuff that the artists have been doing here, like Kendrick Lamar and Drake. We want something more. So let's get something more. Let's come back with a fire. Because obviously we're going to see how well all these tracks do streaming coming up and how well they perform. Because the record labels, I think they're going to be pretty solid, steadfast on saying, you know what, we need more of that. We need to keep feeding that to the masses. And I guarantee that's going to be one of the thoughts right now for these record labels. They're going to want to jump in on this and cash in quick. About as quickly as even disco was even being played out in the late 70s, remember? Well, this is a trend. Count on music labels to go ahead and just bury it to the ground and play it incessantly till we get tired of it and can't listen to it anymore. Speaking of music, one more thing about that. Spotify is going to start paying songwriters now because of the increase in subscriptions now for their premium duo and family plan changes. They're going to be coming up. Spotify is going to jack up their prices. I'm expecting it. I'm still going to stay on. But now we're going to realize, oh, the money's going to go towards songwriters. Oh, okay. All right. By adding the audiobooks right now for their plans, Spotify says it qualifies for rate discounts. For Spotify, that means the loyalty rates they have to go and pay for it are going to be brought down quite a bit. It's only going to help them out. The report is that Spotify will be upping the cost of its premium subscription from $9.99 to $10.99, including 15 hours of audiobooks per month in the U.S. It sounded like a win for songwriters and publishers. But adding audiobooks into Spotify's premium tier, they now claim they can qualify to pay for a discounted bundle rate for songwriters for premium streams. So that's the part that everybody's all worried about. And that's where they're all saying, oh, so the price hikes don't benefit the songwriters. Well, now they do. Because Spotify is making the pledge publicly to go and do so. All right, that works out. Wasn't much else to go after on the show for this week when I really think about it. When I looked at what else was left, you know, there's a few other things I could bring up, I guess. But like really, if I have anything else I'm going to bring up, I'll probably bring it on to as an extra this week. And I want to make the point they're going to talk about that real quick. So, as you know, I now have a supporters club. All I'm going to say is this. You can help out this program right here for $2 a month. And when you're listening to the show, as you become a supporters club member, for $2 a month, you will catch additional episodes of the program. Some shorter form content. Like I'm going to have some quick extras out there. 5, 10, 50 minutes long on various real-time as it happens content, news out there, or whatever there is. I'm going to be able to go ahead and take time to go ahead and do it because I'll be recording them, not from the studio, but on the walk. You know, I've been doing that now for a couple of weeks, and I'm going to keep doing that to see if I can go ahead and stir up some interest for supporters. And here's the thing, too. I'm going to offer the extra content. It's no skin off my back to go and do extra stuff. So I'm going to do it anyway. But what I want to do, too, as well, is even if you don't want to have the content or you don't really like to listen to it, if you want to just donate, you can donate. $2 a month is nothing. I hope it's not that much to you. And, you know, I don't expect if you do it or not. I just hope that you do and you'll consider it. And that would be really great. Because if you do, then I am going to do much more content. And I'll make sure to go ahead and satisfy anyone that even considers to put the couple dollars down for this program. Because that'll mean a lot to me. And I will do my damnedest to make sure I do more for all of you. Just saying. A couple other stories to bring up. Chapter 11 bankruptcy, likely for a huge radio company. And they're saying now that in the story here, this is from thestreet.com. They're saying that Cumulus Media is one of 3 companies that are looking to go ahead and become caught up in bankruptcy. So first is Cumulus Media, operating radio stations and syndicated radio content. They offer syndicated programming to over 9,800 affiliated stations through Westwood One, the largest audio network in America. Cumulus also owns a large podcast network and 401 owned and operated radio stations across 85 markets. Weak advertising has made it hard for them to go and really make money. Their stock closed on May 2nd at $2.75. It was as high as $15.67 May of last year. Year to year drops like the nothing. So yeah, one of those companies that's going to be brought up. The other ones that are originating here are EchoStar, which offers satellite programming and now owns the Dish Network, and CommScope Holding. They work in the background. In the media, that's not really much more to that. One of the story came up from Lifehacker. I don't know why they brought this up, but why radio is still better than the Spotify algorithm. Justin Pott writes this story, and he says the algorithm is a trap. The theory behind using an algorithm to recommend music makes sense in the abstract. You like artist A, artist B is similar, ergo you might like artist B. Some people, so he says in here that, the playlists are supposed to be created for me tends to have the same 3 songs or so at the top, and the DJ mode tends to dip into the same as well. And so he's trying to recommend that you listen to radio and looking for the curation of radio. And in the story, he thinks that Spotify should recommend to go ahead and take on radio stations and add them onto their platform. So he doesn't like the algorithm that comes up with it. To me, it's not that bad. And remember, if you're listening to curated playlists by Spotify, yeah, I'm not listening to those. I create my own. And I do really well with that as well. I do like that. All right, that's the show for the night. We're done. We did it. And I thank you all for listening to the program. I don't think we're going to do anything more about the rap battles and stuff like that. I think that's going to be tabled until future notice, until something else comes up about it. But I think, for what it was worth, it was fun. I enjoyed it. Let's just see some other rap artists come out there and do something about it. Let's see them actually come up here and see if they'll actually, maybe they'll go ahead and get themselves involved in this. And, some other artists will be inspired to go and do something more. Because I hope they do. It will really be a great thing. And I hope music in general gets more kind of excitement. Competition fosters some great things. Let's just say it like that too. All right, come back next week for another Broadcasters Podcast. Remember that content is king, and the control of your content is in your hands.